Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to the Joe and Joe Weather Show on this Wednesday night, the 20th of January, 2021. A lot of 20s in there. And Joe's on the top again, so you're up there. I don't know. I changed the size of the Zoom video box, and now we're up and down. So let's see how long that lasts before I get tired, and then we go back to side by side. Do you like side by side or up and down?
It doesn't matter to me, Joe. Hi.
Well, if we had seven more squares, we could play Hollywood Squares.
Well, regardless of wherever you are, the maps continue to be confusing for early next week, and I'm sure we're going to get into that in just a moment. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Yes, exactly. A word from our sponsor, Omni True Value Hardware, Long Island's largest rock salt provider and a provider of everything you need when it comes to winter storms. And also, when spring gets here in a couple of months, you're going to need mulch and shovels and those pitchforks and everything else. 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, just north of the Southern State Parkway. 631-756-1125 is the telephone number. The website's omnitruevalue.com. And remember, folks, they're a local business in West Babylon, and they service the entire tri-state area. And this is definitely a time where local businesses could certainly use your support. omnitruevalue.com. And maybe they'll get some good business if these winter storms wind up verifying, or at least if the first one winds up verifying. I think the GFS model is kind of thrown, the operational run of the GFS is kind of thrown everybody for a bit of a loop. But it's the only one. If you look at the other four, if you look at the European, the Icon, and the Canadian, they're all very close to each other with the idea of a wave coming out. And I still think the issue is going to be how far north it gets. But I'm starting to think that somebody's going to wind up getting something out of this. That's about as committed as I'm going to be at this stage of the game.
Well, at the peak of the storm, according to the European, we've got the 540 just to actually, it looks like the 540, let's say at early Tuesday morning, is going to be somewhere right across my driveway, 50 miles north of Manhattan.
Yeah.
So I would suspect that it's going to be, I don't know what it's going to be.
Well, I looked at
yesterday. The same model yesterday had everything suppressed. The European I'm talking about didn't lay a glove on us, and now it's got us awash in precipitation 24 hours later. So who the heck knows?
Yeah,
but yesterday, Joe, we'll have to wait until Thursday, Friday, and the weekend to get a better handle on this.
And we've been saying that from the very beginning this week, and it was, is, and will always be through this event. It's all about the block, and the block seems to be relaxing a bit. I also think part of the part of this equation is that is a deep trough that's going to be out in the west. That's going to try to force a little bit of ridging here in the east, and I think that's creating some room for something to happen. But this thing is definitely, I think, going to slide out to the south of. I think it's going to slide south of 40 degrees north. It's just a question of just how far south and how much suppression. I don't think this would be a big event, but I certainly think it has the potential for being a moderate event. And I also think that for somebody, maybe on the southern end of the snow shield before it transitions over to rain, there could be a freezing rain issue for places like southern Pennsylvania, for Maryland, out of this. But again, we've got days. We still have days to look at this.
The one I'm really getting excited at, well, I don't know if I could say excited, but the one that I'm really interested in is not the one that's coming for early next week, Monday, Tuesday.
But the one behind it.
The one behind it. If for nothing else, it looks like that one really, once it gets its feet wet out over the ocean, Joe, it really winds up and becomes a monster.
Mm-hmm.
And one has to wonder, exactly when that intensification is going to occur. and how close it will be to the coastline as it's winding up. It could very well be one of these weird situations where the immediate shore areas of, let's say, the Delmarva or the Virginia Capes, or maybe if it's a tad further south, maybe even Cape Hatteras gets whomped on with a significant snowfall. We'll see about that. But I thought that looks very interesting for the toward the end of the month, believe it or not, the
Yeah.
29th and 30th of January.
Well, maybe that winds up being the big one you've been talking about. I don't know. I mean,
Well,
we're speculating openly here. I mean, there's nothing here on the, there's nothing uh, even close to being definitive.
it
We're
sure
just,
doesn't look like it sure doesn't look like an 18-ounce coffee cup to me, Joe. You say it's the big one.
oh, Jesus. Snow today on some snow showers moved through today, and a lot of spots on Long Island that got the ground whitened up nicely, and also in New Jersey. And in fact, I saw something today. I guess it was. It only doesn't happen very often. I don't remember if this happened when we had that snow. Remember that super snow squall that went through last winter? Uh,
December, yeah, of
yeah,
2019, yeah.
yeah. They issued a special marine warning for the snow because it kind of banded up in a bit of a line when it moved off the New Jersey coast. They actually issued a special marine warning for coastal Ocean County and down to Atlantic County, which is I don't remember. I don't remember them ever doing that for a line of snow showers. And I did talk to Alan this afternoon. He said his visibility got down to about half a mile briefly. So
Yeah, well,
whatever was going on, it was strengthening even further when it went out when it went out past him because he's right on the shore.
yeah, two for about 2 or 3 minutes at around 2:30 this afternoon here in my house. Visibility got cut down to about, I'd say, about 500 feet, and you could actually see how the snow was blowing on my driveway. But it only again lasted for a few minutes, and then as quickly as it came, it went, and that was that.
Yes, and that was that. All right. Well, we have today 57 likes so far, and 140 of you have joined the show. Thank you very much for being here. If you like the show, please hit the like button because it makes Joe and I happy when we go over 100 likes. And you can subscribe to my YouTube channel by simply hitting the subscribe button and by using your Gmail account. And then you can get notifications every time Joe and I do a live stream, which is usually 5 days a week. We have, Joe, we've got 2 early super chat hits, actually 3 early super chat hits. James H. Hitting super chat, David Fuller hitting super chat, and Paul Roman hitting super chat. He says, towards some snow for the chat board, he says. Well, we certainly are going to try our best to get some snow in here because, without something to talk about, it does become a bit of a struggle, but at least we do have something. And why don't we start off? I'm going to bring up WPC's, which I thought was kind of interesting that they went this particular route. Of course, they suddenly have decided now that they're going to update their map. Is that what they just did on me? Hang on, I'm refreshing. There we go. No, I hit the wrong date. That's what it was. All right, let me just clean this map up here. So, Joe, on the long range on the WPC, where they talk about the probability of at least a quarter of an inch of snow and or sleet in liquid precipitation equivalent. So that would be on a 10-to-1 ratio. We're talking at least 2.5 inches of snow. I was saying greater than an inch. I don't know why I got that into my head. It's a quarter of an inch of liquid. So they have the southern edge across southern Virginia. Maybe if you draw a line from say Richmond to Blacksburg, that's where they have the southern edge, and they have a 10 to 30% chance. Now I'm wondering why they went all the way up. I mean, they really went all the way up into upstate New York. There it goes. Here it comes. Sorry about that. They pushed that probability clear up all of upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and southern Maine. And I'm not sure why they did that, but they did. Now, judging from what I saw today, and what I've been seeing, and this argument about how that this is going to be more to the south than it is to the north. I might have maybe put the northern edge just to be safe at say Boston, Albany, somewhere up there. So I'm kind of wondering why what was in their mind to go as far north as they did.
A CYA forecast, maybe?
Well, it could be, but I
Uh,
don't know. It's not exactly CYAing for upstate New York because I
yeah,
mean it does snow there on a regular basis. So a snowfall for them is not exactly you know breaking news. Did I just hear the executive producer in the background?
I think she said something about Samata Mott. I'm not
Oh,
sure.
what's Samadamat up to now?
I don't know. I'm looking on the
What
chat board.
flukes are we talking about this time? Usually if we're going to talk about flukes on this show, it's about the ones we catch when we go fishing.
You see, now she just said something to me again on the intercom. I'm trying my best to listen to you.
Oh, I'm
She's
sorry.
screaming at me. It's almost, what it's like, Joe? It's like going back and working at FiOS 1 or News 12, where I'm trying to do one thing. Map. Show the map. Show the maps. Show the maps.
Show the
You're not
maps.
showing the maps,
Oh, I'm
Joe.
not showing the maps. Oh, thank you. Samana Mott.
Atsamara, hey, Atsamara for you.
Okay, I'm switching on one
Show the
screen.
map and da 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 da.
Yeah, no, I
Is
know.
this it?
Yeah, this is it. Hang on.
Yeah.
You could have
All right.
told me you couldn't see the maps, Joe.
I was looking at my own maps.
Oh, all
You're
right.
talking about this map, and I'm looking at it on my own screen, so I don't.
All right. Well,
Yeah, I'm not behind you.
you heard what I said though. I'm
But
wondering
it's
why.
like being with her yelling on the intercom. It's like the old days where I'm trying to do a forecast, and I'm hearing the producer say, "Wrap it up, Rayo.
All
Wrap
right.
it up."
Let's put that part of the equation behind me. What I'm saying is, you heard what I said about this map, so I'm interested in your commentary.
Yes.
I'm trying.
Well, I said it looks like a CYA map. I wonder too, why do they have that precipitation on Tuesday morning all the way up into the hinterlands of upstate New York and southern Maine? And
I know.
I thought we were talking about a marginal something marginal for our area, with the edge like right nearby or near Boston or whatever. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see, how things evolve over the next over the next couple of days. Maybe they're seeing something that they're thinking that the snow shield might wind up pushing further north. Um, Obviously, that's what's got to be in their mind, but I'm just trying to figure out, why they did what they did. But no matter. As far as what's going on around the country right now, it's pretty quiet again. There's a minimal amount of action really when you look at this. The uh, Got wind advisories and high wind warnings for North Dakota and northwestern Minnesota. You have a few counties in southwest Arizona and southeast California in the deserts where they have flash flood watches up, and just a few winter weather advisories in parts of Montana and Idaho, and then the rest of the country is just snooze fest. So that part of the equation is
Right.
quiet. All right, so let me.
Okay.
All right,
Oh, that's
all right. So let's go to the radar. I know it's the Weather Service radar, Bill Rogers, but that's all I can do right now. But we still have a little bit of snow belt activity going on in upstate New York, and this is going to pick up again probably on Thursday into Friday as another trough swings by. Some snow showers, actually getting some ocean effect there on Cape Cod. Joe, look at that, right over Cape Cod, seeing some echoes coming in, uh, and then moving to the southeast. A few light bands up in Maine. The radar was far busier earlier. Meanwhile, we have rain, and this is a disturbance that's getting suppressed to the south. So we're seeing rain into western Tennessee, almost to about Nashville, into northwestern Alabama, northern Mississippi, and back through parts of Arkansas. and also seeing some showers back through parts of Texas, South Texas. And here's the rain in Southern California that's coming up from the Baja Peninsula into southern Arizona and back into the deserts of Southern California. And even San Diego looking like they might be getting some showers out of this. So they are. They are.
Well, that goes against that song, doesn't it?
Yes, because it never
Because
rains
it
in
never rains in
California.
Southern California. Yeah.
Correct. So now I'm
Wow.
going to bring up the let's bring up the U.S. satellite view, and we'll take a look at this. Hang on a second. I usually preload this, but I don't want to slow my streaming level down. But here's the U.S. view tonight. Got a nice looking storm out there out south of Nova Scotia. Pretty rather impressive. Probably going to get a little more impressive over time. But again, that's all part of that whole blocky scenario. A lot of Pacific tropical moisture shooting up into the southwest as well as into Texas, and you're getting that breakaway system that's going to pass by well to the south of the Mid-Atlantic states, and even south of the Carolinas, as this thing's going to get squashed. And it looks like some stuff's getting ready to come into the Pacific Northwest before too long, but we're looking pretty decent here. It looks fairly clear tonight, and I don't see anything happen. The next 4 days are going to be relatively quiet here, unless a snow shower sneaks in.
It does look rather wound up, that storm south of Nova Scotia. A real stem winder. And again, as I mentioned near the top of the show, Joe, the system that supposedly is going to hit us, or not hit us, but move off the mid-Atlantic coastline at the end of next week, really gets very strong, very fast. And one has to wonder, I wonder, how warm the waters are in the Gulf Stream
They
right
are
now.
running above average. I don't know specifically without pulling up the map, but they are running. Most of the Atlantic is seeing ocean water temperatures about 1 to 2 degrees above average, with a few pockets even a little bit higher than that.
And I'm looking here on the chat board, and somebody has noted that ever since you and I started to push for likes on our show, that the number of dislikes have gone up. In other words, whoever's out there, or some people who are out there, are trying to, say, hey,
Yeah,
they
no,
want.
I did see somebody on the chat board that goes by the moniker Joe and Joe suck.
Really?
Yeah,
Well,
no, I did. Yeah, there's somebody on the chat board named Joe and Joe sucks.
they wouldn't go through all of that trouble if we weren't making headway, or weren't making,
Oh
you
yeah, I
know,
don't care if they,
miracles,
if this is how they want to spend the time in their pathetic little lives, by coming on a live stream and hitting a dislike button. Oh please, you know, get a job for
I'm
Christ's sake.
actually, I'm actually honored with that,
Yeah, no,
that
it
they
is a
took
badge
that.
of honor. Well, look,
Yeah.
let's not give him any more airtime. Also,
Okay.
look at the thing off the southwest, Joe. Also, very well defined here on the satellite. Nice rotation. Nice satellite signature there with some kind of upper low that's feeding up all this moisture. And again, this block, if it weren't as strong as it is, I think we would be probably seeing a lot of this moisture come up. But now, then again, come early next week, some moisture is going to get involved. So the block looks like it wants to relax, and that's going to be key here with whatever we get next week. And the other thing is, speaking of the block, let me pull up the North Atlantic. By the way, check just everybody, if you use the GOES website, make sure you check every once in a while on the menus, because it looks like, they have added a whole bunch of different sectors, including the Northern Atlantic and the Northern Pacific. So, they are getting more and more creative and more varied with the number of options that are available. And for example, I just pulled up the North Pacific here. Just give a chance for the loop to get going. And there is a storm, You can see we show them on the maps with these upper lows, but now we're actually putting satellite pictures of these storms. And these Pacific storms there's two big ones over here, southeast of just to the west of the Aleutians, and another one southwest of the Aleutians. Two very impressive systems. Look at that. Whoa.
And these eventually will spit out uh, systems that will have an impact, if not on us, at least on parts of the eastern United States over the next week or 10 days.
Yeah, look at that trail of tropic on the southern end of this. The moisture on the bottom of the satellite picture there, all of that pushing eastward, and then some of it kind of turns northeastward and heads up into Washington and Oregon. So yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, some of this energy is going to get involved here at some point, making another deep trough out in the western part of the United States, and in the North Atlantic when we've been checking out there. So let me bring that one up. And we can take a look, at least from the satellite perspective. We were able to see the upper high the other day by watching the rotation of the clouds. So let's see if we can do that again. We'll let the loop load up 36 frames or so, and it should start moving momentarily. By the way, while this is loading, I just want to mention that this show is also available as a podcast on Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And Joe, you'll be happy to know that back in early January, our podcast was hit the top 20 in the Earth Science category. They list the top 100, and we hit the top 20. So that's cool. That's very cool. So
I like that.
Yeah, you see the clouds.
We're kind of like the weather version of Click and Clack, the Tapper brothers, the car experts.
Yes. Huh. So look, here's your.
Except neither one of us laugh as much as one of the brothers used to.
Yeah. Look at those the low clouds kind of dictate it all east of Greenland because they're moving from north to south, and then you've got the clouds in southern Greenland going from east to west, and then east of Labrador, you're seeing the clouds going northwestward. So there's your upper high here, that blocking high. And of course, with the block there, you can see how these storms are all marching underneath it. There's one. Here's another area out in the Atlantic that looks like it's headed for Spain. There's one between Iceland and Ireland and Scotland here that's dropping southeastward, and many areas in England they had flooding rains, and now they're going to get this colder air that's coming in that's going to change it over to snow. So the NAO is having a big impact on the weather in Europe, as it is. We're seeing the impact here in the east, where the weather is very quiet. In Europe, it is downright stormy. And on the latest surface map, you've got your coastal low that's way out that formed today off the New Jersey coast, and you've got weak cold high pressure in, and here comes another front that will probably move through here late Thursday night or early Friday, and that'll set us up for what's going to be a cold, dry weekend.
Yes, and it will be a cold weekend. I think temperatures up here in the Hudson Valley, Joe, on Saturday and Sunday may have a tough time cracking 30 degrees, despite the fact that we should have copious or lots and lots of sunshine. So it might very well be the coldest weekend that we've seen so far this winter season.
And I think Saturday, especially down near the coast, I think it may wind up being on the windy side.
Yes, it could be rather gusty, and I tell you, it was a gusty, breezy day out there today, and tomorrow, while not quite as gusty as today, still at times the winds will probably kick up to over 20 miles an hour.
Yeah,
so that's pretty good.
WPC on their rainfall for the next 7 days, they had pushed us up to a quarter and a half to a quarter to a half an inch of liquid, and this would be for next Monday night, later Monday and Tuesday. Now they've kind of cut it back to a tenth to a quarter. So that kind of goes against what they're saying with their snowfall forecast of at least a quarter of an inch of liquid equivalent of snow and sleet and showing that all the way up into New Hampshire and Vermont. So it's kind of a conflict here. These maps were done 3 hours apart, so um, the first map was done probably before most of the midday model cycle was done, whereas this map was done after the midday model cycle was done. So perhaps they looked at the ensembles and came up with something a little different. But Joe, this goes to the argument about what I was saying earlier about the fact that I think this is still going to be an issue about having this suppressing to the south, and that there'll be a sharp cutoff to how far north the snow gets. So I'm going to lean against the idea that it's going to go all the way up the Hudson Valley. I think it's going to be somewhere, maybe Route 84 might wind up being the cutoff. I don't know, but it is going to be further south than where WPC has it, in my opinion.
You know, in talking about again that system for late next week, who the heck knows where it's going to go until we get the storm on Monday, Tuesday out of the way. If that one,
Yes.
I'll tell you what, if that one comes further north than what we are thinking now, I think that's going to open the door for the system at the end of next week to come up a little further to the north, and then things may really get exciting here by the latter part of next week.
Well, we'll see. But it's like
We'll see.
as I tell the folks that messaged me about the second one, I said, let's get through the first one before we we start worrying
Right.
about the second one. But a ton of rain,
Absolutely.
a ton of rain in the west, by the way, up and down from Southern California all the way up the coast. Especially in Northern California, 3 to 5 inches or more over the next 7 days. So the La Nina doing its job of bringing in a lot of moisture into the west. And of course, we see the result of the rains in the next 7 days across the southern plains. The lower Mississippi Valley and through the deep south and the Tennessee Valley, where we're talking about 1.5 to 3 inches or more. I'm going to bring up the teleconnections here because I think this is this is the big player. I'm paying extra close attention to them this time. And we are negative on the NAO. That's not breaking news exactly. It looks like it actually takes a little more of a dip over the weekend, and then it starts to spike up toward the neutral line. So that might play into what you were saying, Joe. With these, you notice we go from negative about 1 or 1.5 standard deviations from the mean, and then right around January 31st, February 1st, we're positive. And sometimes when the end, you see these spikes like that. I mentioned that before. You see these spikes. Oftentimes there is a storm somewhere that of consequence, something that's impacting a large area. So the end of the month, certainly you can look at that and say, well, maybe that's some kind of a signal. And then follow that up, Joe, with a big spike on the AO, because that goes from almost 4 standard deviations negative to 0 in what looks like a matter of days. So there is some kind of atmospheric upheaval that is going on, that will be going on next week and wrapping up around the end of the month when the AO reaches the neutral line, and then it goes sharply negative again after that. So kind of gives you an idea that we may wind up just reverting back to the pattern that we've had, that we may stay blocky again. And here's another thing to look at too. Look at the Pacific North America Index, which is going negative now, and I think that helps us with the first one. But notice it makes a bottom, and then even the PNA spikes up toward the neutral line. So right around this January 31st, maybe, or the 30th, 31st, February 1st, somewhere in there. Those may be those are the dates that we might have to look at, as you said, with that second storm.
Right. That second storm, as much as everybody's talking about and analyzing and discussing the first system for Monday, Tuesday, you go out a little bit further. And again, I'm going against what I've been saying for all these days now, that you can't trust anything much beyond 4 or 5 days. And what am I doing? Here I am telling everybody about a potential system coming our way like 8 or 9 days from now. But you can't help not looking at it because, again, as soon as that thing goes off the mid-Atlantic coastline, wow, it's almost like somebody piped or pumped some atmospheric steroids into it, and it gets very strong. very, very fast. That's why I also asked a question about how warm the Gulf Stream is, because it looks like it must go right over the Gulf Stream and immediately reacts to it by blowing up. So again, that second system may very well be something exciting and something interesting to watch, but we really won't know until we get the first one out of the way. The first one, again, for Monday, Tuesday, still driving some forecasters crazy as to how far north or how far south it's going to go. We'll just have to wait and see.
Right, blocked up in Greenland. You see there that very strong upper high that is sitting over Greenland and has been there for quite a while now. And underneath that, and actually for the first time maybe for the first time this month, that we've actually seen this flow that connects from up from northern Canada. And we have this one trough that's moving through now. Here's another trough that's dropping down with the weekend cold air. Here's your upper low that's wrapped up off of Baja California, that's feeding the rain into Southern California, Southern Arizona. And then of course you can see on the upper left all the action that's going on with those two storms that we showed you out in the Pacific. So it's a very blocky, it's certainly a very blocky pattern that we have. And the next trough will swing through here for Friday, so that brings in the cold air for the weekend. So now we can start focusing our attention on the system for Monday. So yesterday, Joe, we talked about this upper low dropping down from Great Slave Lake to Lake Winnipeg, and then the upper low goes back northwestward, and it leaves this. The bottom part of it stretches out right in here, and I think this is the reason why the GFS is doing the squirrely things that it's doing, because it is the only model that is doing that. The other models are not exactly doing the same thing when it comes to the retrogression, nor are they really kind of stretching this out uh, and forming a separate upper low in that northern part of the jet stream. Part of that is going to, if it does happen, that might be what suppresses everything south. But if it doesn't, you do get a little bit of ridging there come later Sunday, and that might be enough to bring this system, the one that's coming out of the southwest, and that's right in here, this shortwave trough, that might be enough to push it just far enough north to bring that precip shield north of New York City. Maybe it gets a little bit further north. Let's say if it were to wind up as far north as I-90. And by the way, you and I both know that there's a history of these weather models suppressing storms that wind up producing snows much further north than originally modeled. So you have to be I think you have to be cautious.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but the problem also is that, especially if you have a big high to the north, is where the cutoff line is going to be, and it could be a very sharp cutoff line in these kind of situations. So, like case in point, what we had in 2016, January of 2016, that monstrous snowstorm, 27 inches for New York City. Up here where I live, 50 miles north, 11 inches, and about 5 miles north of where I live, 1 or 2 inches at best. So you can see how that snow can really cut off very sharply. It's always very difficult for forecasters to make a determination about that. And again, you're right. We don't know where, especially this far in advance, we really don't have a good handle as to the precise storm track, the storm strength. We're literally going to have to wait until the storm is literally almost upon us
Right.
before we can do any specifics, talk about any specifics.
Now,
But
now here's the Euro. Good. I'm sorry.
at the very least, it looks like next week, for the first time in a long time, next week looks like it's going to be very interesting from start to finish.
Yes,
So,
that I agree with. Totally agree with you on that. On the European, by the way, talking about that retrogression, it really doesn't do that. It doesn't release some kind of shortwave that moves along in the northern part of the flow the way the GFS does. And I think that's the reason why the first system winds up a little more amped on the European. It's right in here. You actually can pick out a definable shortwave. The northern feature is way back to the west. So the models, the GFS is the only model that's doing that retrogression and then that renegade shortwave. It's a very unusual thing to see. So obviously there's some skepticism here. If the GFS winds up being right, it would have, in my view, we could say that it would have hit quite the home run. And by the way, the next one is comes out on the European also, and you see it right here. That's a nice looking little shortwave. You've got the split flow, Joe, with the colder flow from Canada right into New England, and then all of a sudden on the last frame, you've got this wrapped up cutoff low there southeast of New Jersey, and we can't go, and then it kind of moves on out. It's a tight little system. The other thing I want to point out too, by the way, if as far as the long range is concerned, is the fact that it seems like we might be in for an interesting times for the next couple of weeks because the Pacific is looking a bit better. A deep cutoff drops down into the Gulf of Alaska and moves southward right along 120. Right along 130 west, and you start to get some ridging here. This is February 2nd now, so we're looking at well into the long range, but you start to get some ridging up here, and there's a bit of more of a polar connection coming into the east. And on the last this particular run, I don't remember. I think even on the earlier run, some of the GFS runs were trying to drop a deep trough in the west and bring a ridge to the east at the end of the forecast period, but it seems to have backed off quite a bit now in the last couple of runs. So this might bode well for the long range, and also you still have, by the way, above normal pressures across Greenland. There's a big ridge there up at 40, builds all the way up across Greenland and into the Arctic. So you still have a negative NAO signature, and we're out to February 5th. So yeah, certainly next week looks interesting, and maybe even beyond that will look pretty interesting.
It just seems that when we get to when each system gets to the Atlantic coastline, it seems to want to cut out a little short wave or some kind of a trough or something. And you're right. Over the next couple of weeks, if we miss one, another one is coming around. 2-3 days after that. And what's the old saying about you go to the well once too many times, and
Yeah.
we keep missing one and one and one. But one of these is going to have to connect. One of these is going to have to eventually hit the so-called home run if you're a snow lover, and that's why I think you're absolutely right. You're getting to the end of this month and on into February. It's what I've been saying for the longest time now. I really didn't think that we would see much in January, but February, March, a backloaded winter, still think that's a good chance of happening.
All right, so I've got Pivotal Weather's maps up. I want to try and see if I can do a loop here. All of a sudden now I forgot how to do it. Here we go. So let's go to forecast loop, and we'll let it build here, so we can take a look at how
Tim Beltman, by the way, is on the chat board, says, I'm not exactly sure what he means. You're taking a few short signal hits tonight.
Oh,
now, I haven't heard, but
Oh, it's possible. That's why. Let me get rid of that goes picture. So that might help. That may help the cause. Okay, so let me run through this pivotal map really quick, because this also is trying to load down extra frames. I don't have a strong signal where I am right now, so my apologies for that. I will be back up in the New York area sometime next week, so things will get better.
Oh, good. So you're gonna share the fun with all of us next week, then, right?
Well, yeah. If it does look like we're going to wind up getting some snow, then I will probably drive back up on Sunday. So
yeah,
I don't want to miss it. Okay, so let's just go through this and take a look at what the European is doing with the surface. so you can get an idea how it matches up with the upper air. So of course you just saw that low move across the south. We're looking at Friday afternoon here. That moves out and gone. It's very weak. And of course you've got this nice big high. And now here comes the low that's going to be our system for Monday night, potentially later Monday into Tuesday. And there you see it, southern Arkansas. And the operational took the low, to eastern Kentucky, and then it goes. Actually, I'm sorry, Joe. You know what I'm showing right now? I take it back. This is the parallel GFS. Okay, the parallel GFS is very much like the other models, and this one, the parallel would argue that the northern fringe of the precip is, maybe to about Poughkeepsie, would be the northern fringe. But at least the parallel GFS is in line with what the other models are doing. Now I'll bring up the European. My mistake, because I wanted to look at the parallel, and I pulled it up and I forgot to reload it. So let's get the we'll get the European in here, and just everybody be patient, because it will load up shortly. And there you have it on the European. So I'll just backtrack this a little bit, and I see on the European, Joe, the primary winds up going to eastern Ohio. That went a little fast. There we go. Goes to eastern Ohio, but it also is showing there's this big sprawling high up in Canada that's part of it's building southward. The other part is building over the top of the low and into southeastern Canada. So it's trying to wedge down cold air down the coast here. And the European, at least from the standpoint of what the precip shield looks like, never really brought the range, never changed it over to snow in New York City. It brought it to about, okay, I don't know what I just did here. I'm sorry, this is the second one. But let's roll this back. Okay, so here we go. Sorry about that. So yeah, I mean, you can see that this round of snow and then sleet, and of course, you notice that on the southern edge there's a lot of freezing rain down in Pennsylvania and into Maryland. The primary goes into northeast Ohio, but the isobars are all stretched out from Delaware, the Delmarva Peninsula eastward. So there's another secondary low there's a secondary low that's going to develop there, and that becomes the main low, and it moves away. And then, of course, you see what Joe was talking about, what you were just talking about with the second system that comes out. It's got a low in eastern Kentucky, and then it goes into West Virginia. The secondary forms off the North Carolina coast, and it starts to wrap up nicely. Brings the snow shield to about New York City, but it has darker blue snows down in New Jersey and into the Delmarva Peninsula, and then it starts to move straight east. And this is early in the game, so obviously we're going to see this change over time. But um, yeah, definitely next week is going to be fun for a change after these long dry stretches we had this month. Assuming that nothing else changes, we should have some things to talk about.
Yes, and when you talk about 11 consecutive dry days, and then you have a little bit, you had more than just a little bit, we had over an inch of liquid precip, and then we've gone right back to the same kind of dry weather pattern, save for the snow showers and flurries that we had here today, but a few more dry days coming up. So yeah, it's time. It's time that things start to really act up, and all the parameters, Joe, for the NAO, the AO, the Pacific NAO. I mean, like all of those are converging, as you said, toward the end of this month. And sure enough, it looks like the operational models are trying to form something
Yeah.
of significance by then. So who's to say? By the end of next week, a lot of people may be jumping up and down like Mark Gastineau of the Jets used to do after he tackled somebody.
Yes. Exactly. I don't know if the chairman left me a. I don't think the chairman left me a. Did he leave me any questions for tonight? Yes, he did. Okay, so we do have Briller Jeopardy tonight. This is the final round of the presidential Briller Jeopardy, Joe. Are you ready?
Okay,
Okay,
sure.
so question one. Who was the first president to own a car?
Was it, I'll take a, well, let's see. Could it have been Warren Harding? I'll say Warren Harding.
Uh, William
Warren G. Harding.
William Howard Taft. You were close because I was.
Taft. You know, I was gonna say Taft, but I said, well, let's move. And you know what? Warren G. Harding was what, around the late teens, early 20s. So yeah, a car could have come. The car could have come along earlier than that. So all right,
Yes. Who was the first president to ask for a declaration of war?
was um for World War One, maybe that could have been. Oh, who was it for World War? Who was the World War One? He tried
Wilson.
the League of
Wilson.
Nations.
Wilson.
Yeah, Wilson,
Wilson.
Mr. Wilson,
Right, Mr.
Woodrow
Wilson.
Wilson.
Right, Woodrow Wilson. Well, that's wrong. The
That's
answer
wrong.
is, and that's wrong. The answer is James Madison.
James Madison. For
Was
what?
he?
For
Was
which
he
war?
the War of 1812? Maybe
1812. Yeah. All right.
against Britain. Um, I'm thinking that that might be it. The first president impeached by the House of Representatives,
What was that? Was that Andrew Johnson?
Andrew Johnson.
Yes.
The first president from the People's Republic of the state of Vermont. Sorry,
The first.
Bill.
That was. Oh dear. Who succeed was no, it wasn't Truman. I know that he was
I'll
sworn
give
in by his father.
I'll give
He
you a
was sworn
hint.
in by his father.
I'll give you a hint. He has
Yeah.
his both his first and his last name could be first names.
Oh, his first and his last name could be first.
Could be first
Could be.
names.
Well, I know the president you're talking about because when word got to him, he was up in Vermont, and I think his father was the one who swore him in.
Yes,
It's Calvin Coolidge. No,
no.
who was it?
Who's got a first name? Who's got the first name of Coolidge?
Yes,
Um.
I
Okay, I'll give you another hint. He. How do I put this? Uh.
you're being too kind, by the way.
Yes.
You can always change.
I would say one of the names would be the name of a character that used to pop in on occasion in strange ways. He
Used
was
to
an
pop in on.
he was an uncle.
Maybe if I were not
All right,
using
I'll
my
give you a
mind a
stronger
bit.
hint. He was a warlock.
He was a warlock.
He was a warlock.
Uncle. Are we talking about Bewitched? Uncle
Yes,
Arthur.
Uncle Arthur.
Chester
Chester
Arthur.
Arthur. I'm trying to help you here.
I understand.
Oh,
Yes. All
okay,
right.
so the chairman has two teaching certifications. What are the two subjects?
I what?
He,
Is this what?
it's the bonus question. The chairman has two teaching certifications. In what subjects is he certified in?
All right. Um, history and
Well, all right, so social studies is one.
social studies and language arts.
No, special ed.
Special ed.
Special ed. And
Okay.
I think the chairman is out
Very good.
doing COVID runs, so hopefully I know he is. He is trying to stay safe. So, um, no, he's on the board tonight. Oh, okay, good. Nice to see him. He's on the board. Yay for the chairman. Okay, so I think that pretty much wraps it up for tonight. Unless you got anything else to add.
Well, Chester Arthur was not the one I was thinking of. You know,
Well, I mean, it wasn't going to be Chester Esmeralda for Christ's sake.
yes, but I'm now you got me wondering who was the president who I knew was sworn in by his father. This is going to drive me crazy now for the rest of the night.
And not his mother?
He wasn't a mutter.
No, he wasn't a mother. Because sometimes a he can be a better mother than a she.
That's right.
Yes. Well,
All right,
Look it up on Wikipedia off camera, okay?
I will do that. I will do that.
Okay, the Joe and
And Jimmy
Joe.
132 says, Jimmy 132 says, you guys are done already. I just got here. Sorry, Jimmy.
7:30, Jimmy. 7:30. The Joe and Joe Weather Show brought to you by our friends at Omni True Value Hardware, Long Island's largest rock salt provider and a provider of everything you need when it comes to winter storms, which maybe next week we might actually get something. 631-756-1125, 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon. They service the entire tri-state area. They are a local business. Support your local businesses. OmniTrueValue.com. So I'm not sure about tomorrow night, Joe. I may have something to do. So I'll let you know tomorrow. So folks, I don't know if we're going to have a show tomorrow night, but if we don't have a show tomorrow night, unless you've got something to do on Friday, we will do a show on Friday. Does that work for you?
I have nothing. I have nothing to do.
Okay, so in
Either
the
Thursday or Friday.
okay, so in the event there's no Joe and Joe show tomorrow night, there will be a Joe and Joe show on Friday night when we normally don't have a Joe and Joe show. And then, of course, we'll be back on Sunday morning for our Sunday morning show at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Even if I have to drive up, even if I decide to drive back up on Sunday, I'll leave right after the Joe and Joe weather show. How's that for
There you
loyalty?
go.
All
There
right.
you go.
All right, folks. Have a great night. Thanks again for being here. Many thanks to James H., David Fuller, and Paul Roman, our 3 super chat hits tonight. 121 likes. We don't care about the unlikes. 137 viewers left here at the end. And we thank everybody for being here. So we will see you either tomorrow or Friday. One or the other, but not both. Nighty
Sim
night.
Salabim.
Nighty night.